You know, Rebels, if you've been checking out some of my promotional ads on social media, you'll be aware that I have been using a lot of AI programs to help me create ads. But you know what? There's a lot more uses for AI than just funny little videos. And I'd like to introduce one of our new sponsors, Podium. It is a leader in creating AI tools for podcasters. Now, let's say you've got a podcast, or maybe you're even thinking of doing a podcast. You're probably wondering, well, how can AI be integrated with your workflow? I'll tell you about Podium. As a podcaster, you know that writing show notes and creating chapters and transcribing episodes takes a lot of time, and it can cost you a lot of money too. But you know what? That's where Podium comes in. It's an AI tool designed specifically for creators and podcasters with the goal of making post-production tasks quick and easy. And in just a few minutes, Podium generates show notes, chapters, summaries, clips for social media, a full transcript, suggested episode titles, social media posts, and more. Whew, that's a lot of work for one little program. Your show notes are key to your podcast's success because it helps new listeners find your podcast and they'll know if it's a fit for them. You know, kind of like Too Many Podcasts. It also improves your SEO, that's your search engine optimization. Ooh, big phrase there. And overall accessibility. And with Podium, you can focus on creating a great podcast and let Podium's AI do the heavy lifting. But Podium isn't just for solo creators and podcasters. It's a game changer for editors, producers, marketers, agencies, and production studios. Teams that use Podiums are able to increase workloads, decrease turnaround times, and improve their quality. How does it work? Very easy. First, go to Podium's website, and you'll see that link that's right there in the show notes. You get 3 hours free just to try it. Pretty cool, huh? And using that link also supports this show as well. And you know what else happens? Because I'm a good guy. You use my link, you will get 50% off for your first month. So visit the site, upload an MP3 file, and download your files, and that's it. And if you need anything else, you can use Podium GPT to generate articles and any marketing copy you might need in seconds. Instant show notes, transcripts, chapters for your podcast or channel. This will level up that podcast. So check out Podium today.
The Sherpa Screening Room is a presentation of the Sherpa's Podcast Picks, which can be heard on podcast apps everywhere, and the Sherpa-lution YouTube page. It's where you'll hear from creators from many fields from all over the world. Now, we take you to the Sherpa Chalet, where your host, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, awaits you. Kind of like how I'm waiting to get paid for this.
This week, on the Sherpa Screening Room, it's an interview with Ian Fults, the creator of the Manna Chronicles, which is about an elf from another world who comes to Earth and creates mischief. A version of that on Earth is when we watch the Sherpa attempt to get food off of a top shelf.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels of the Sherpa-lution, and welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It is a presentation of the Sherpa's Podcast Picks. It is me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, coming to you from Sherpa-lu Studios here in the Sherpa Chalet, high atop Mount Podcastia, where we are overlooking the seas and seas of podcasts. But we're not talking podcasts today. No. The Sherpa Screening Room is our opportunity to get to know the creators that are out there. Singers, dancers, actors, writers, producers, and even our guest today. His name is Ian Fults. He is coming to us from British Columbia. He is the creator of a new comic strip and a series as well, called the Manna Chronicles, and I got to spend a little time with Ian to get to know him and see what his plans are for this comic, and I think you'll be pretty interested if you are interested in animation. He's got some really cool stuff there. He sent me a preview of the comic, and it's pretty wild. I think you might enjoy it. So without any further ado, why don't we head down into the little conference room in the Sherpa Screening Room to hear my conversation with Ian Fults. Hello there, Rebels. We are here in the Sherpa Screening Room, and my guest today is a voiceover actor and the creator and writer of numerous animated features, and one of them that is currently out, that he's working on getting out to the public, It's called the Manna Chronicles. He's coming to us from British Columbia, all the way up there in Canada, to be here with you today so you can get to know him. Mr. Ian Fults. Ian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. Very, very happy and honored to be here for to discuss all things geek with you.
So, have you, obviously, I'm going to guess you've been a comic book fan your entire life.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Of course, Superman's my number one guy. Green Lantern's number two, and then Shazam, aka Captain Marvel, he's number three. Because that's the ultimate wish fulfillment, right? You're a kid, and then you can call a word, and boom, you're a superhero. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, being a Superman fan, I created a character when I was a kid called Superworm. Actually drew him, wrote some stories like him versus Lex Wormthor and Captain Fish and the Raven, and actually published him in my local newspaper.
Okay. And like, how old were you when you were doing this?
8.
And the paper published it for you.
Oh yeah. I can't pay you or anything. That's fine. So I make these big classic 4-panel boxes, and over a couple of weeks it would tell one story, right? So it was published once a week, and so one of those would get published in there. And it was horrible drawings, dude. Like seriously, I'm not an artist, but I love telling stories. Always have. And then I became the guy who did the morning and afternoon announcements at my high school. That's where I got voiceover involved, and I always wanted to do something with my voice. I thought I was very good at it, so I did it. I went to journalism broadcasting, and then I joined the Army as a radio operator, and then only in 2006 I started pursuing voiceover professionally. And then I've been using the extra money that I make through voiceover and overtime at my regular job to then help get my comic book empire going. Electric Lips Comics.
So is the Manna Chronicles the first one, or you have I know you have another one that we're.
Well, yeah, we have multiple projects on the go, but the two ones that we've put out so far, we have a first issue for the Manna Chronicles, and that's going to be an 18-issue story. So we divided into 3 arcs. Each arc will consist of 6 issues. And then there's my wife's project. It's called Tales of Mithril. She's working on that. She's already published her first issue as well. We've got it on our website, elpmerch.com. So you can check out both of those issues. The Tales of Mithril is for a younger audience. It's kind of like tales of female elves who are finding their destinies at a magical school. So there's similarities to like Harry Potter and elves and Lord of the Rings and that kind of stuff in there. But it's really character driven. It's really, really good. Mine, of course, is the Manna Chronicles. It's doing the kind of the flip of the fish out of water story. Instead of humans going to a magical land, it's an elf coming to a modern day Earth. They end up in Central Park. This elf ends up in Central Park, and then shenanigans go from there. And it's gonna be a compelling story, I think.
Were you always like a fan of like the fantasy type of literature, like Lord of the Rings and everything like that? Is that
Lord of the Rings, Legend, the movie Legend? That really got me into fantasy with Tim Curry's performance there as the Darkness.
Tom Cruise too, right?
Huh?
Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom Cruise. Yeah. I think it was like one of his. I think it was his first solo movie prior to After Taps and stuff like that, other little risky business and stuff.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think around that time. Yes.
Yeah, he's kind of doing those kinds of things. It's a great film. I to this day I love it. It's such a great fairy tale. And of course, Lord of the Rings and playing Dungeons and Dragons and watching the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. There's some influence of that into my series. There's Star Wars influences into my series, right? So homages, if you will, because that it was just storytelling in general is what always motivated me, right? Of course, like things like Star Wars, captivating an entire world, and then that's what I'm hoping to do someday with my stuff. Hey, get it out there, see what people think about it, and keep making more.
It's got to be a really interesting process you're getting this stuff and you're creating a story, and now you're getting every frame animated to tell the story. Now, tell me like a little bit about your process of how you formulated the whole comic book.
Well, that's very good. Of course, as I mentioned, I did publish a little Superworm thing when I was a kid, and one of my art teachers, Mrs. Wozni, she said, "Well, why don't you do a human one?" I couldn't draw that well, so I created this character called Laser Man. Well, guess what? There's lots of Laser Mans out there. Nothing's really official, but I was like, okay, what else is there? Is there anything else I could do that's more original? Now, have you ever heard of a video game called City of Heroes?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't really know it too well.
Well, it came out in 2004, and sadly it ended in 2013. The company officially ended it. But it was a fantastic game where in which you can go in and be a superhero, and you could create any superhero you want. You can create the costumes. You could spend hours making your superhero costume, and then going around the city and testing out your powers and becoming the hero. And for me, in my opinion, it is the greatest MMO community ever because they are friendly. Because you want to portray yourself as a hero. So everybody tries to help each other. I've never seen an environment in an MMO like that. Like I was flabbergasted. So they would have these what's called costume contests where you get X amount of this. They called it influence. That was the currency in the game. And the higher ups were like, "Hey, come on down! I want to see your costumes." And everybody would line up, and a winner would get it. And one of my costumes I designed was this elven girl with a camouflage suit and some shoulder pads and a bright star on her chest, and it won. I was like, "Oh, maybe there's a story here." So I started thinking of it's okay. Maybe she comes to our Earth and yada yada yada. And then, oh, who's the villain? Oh, this dark mage, but he has a minion called the Lich that doesn't want to be a minion, and so there's conflict there. I'm like, oh wow, this is shaping up pretty good. But it took me about 10 years to really chisel out the whole core of the story. And I thought, okay, you know what? I can do 72 issues with all this stuff. Oh, wow, this is going to be great. Not realizing that as an independent publisher, you're not going to be making one issue a month.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not with DC. I'm not with Marvel. I'm not being funded by Image and their distribution system. I can't do it once a month. But I whittled everything down. And I said, you know what? Once every 6 months could be a reasonable opportunity. Maybe once a year. Maybe do this for the next 18 years. Who knows? So we're going at it, and at the same time, I've been getting great opportunities to pitch this idea and using the comic book as the storyboard to pitch it.
And you do like have a small team that's working with you as well.
Oh, absolutely! I can't do it without it. I've got an editor. I've got a creative consultant. She helps me with, hey Ian, I like what you're saying here, but this is how you say it better. And it's been fantastic on that sense. And I got three great artists. My wife, she does the coloring, but she can't do the coloring of the third book because she's going to be a little busy on hers. So we're getting this other company called BZ Studios out in India. They've been great. They've been fantastic. And we're getting them to help us do all they did all the drawings for issue 2, but now they're going to do the coloring for issue 3. My friend Antoine Sandoval, who's been working with me for the last, I'd say 9 years on this stuff, he's finally able to put a little more time and dedication to the books. And of course, I'm paying for all this. And it's exciting to bring him back for the third issue. He did the first issue. He's going to do the second issue. The BZ Studios did the second issue. Now he's going to come back and do the third. And he's learned a lot. And in fact, we just posted up recently his cover drawing for the 10th issue. So I'm getting like all the covers all done. And so that people can kind of get a glimpse and a tease of the story. So I'm very excited about all that.
You know, it's interesting. I know when you're doing a comic strip like that you've got to be careful, like when you're telling the story, that you can't do too much exposition in one little frame, right? It really has to spread out, and you have to know how to kind of like balance your dialogue, right?
Oh, that's key. And so for example, with the Manna Chronicles, how I do exposition is through the main narrator. Will be a character named Sandra Wanamaker. She's the narrator of the story, and you don't really figure that out right away, but you slowly kind of put the pieces together. Oh, she's the one narrating this whole story. And be through her, you get all the exposition that anybody needs.
So is she one of the characters that meets the elephant character in Central Park?
Yes, okay. Yes, she's the actress, and her fiance at the time, Nick Sampson. They both kind of end up meeting up with this elven girl, and as she's looking upon our world, she sees Manna everywhere because she's tapped into it. So she knows about Manna, and she's looking at our planet like, your guys are just covered with it. Humans, can't see anything. Right. We have no idea about this Manna that's existing on this planet. And later on, as the story progresses, you find out that when certain things happen, certain people can now start to see it, and they're like overwhelmed and causes some strife. And then, of course, the world's going to find out about this, and what does the world want to do? While finding out that they're actually going to be invaded by an evil force that's trying to take over the planet for the Manna. So yeah, there's so many wheels at play, if you will.
So and not to give too much away from the book. So the Manna is kind of like, I guess maybe like the Force
It's an energy source,
Yeah.
but there's only one thing. Unlike the Force, where you've got the light and the dark side, this one is you have to divide it up into: do you tap into it directly, or can you use it indirectly through an item to help mitigate the influence of mana on you? For mana itself, in my story, is going to be very corruptible, so it corrupts people to give them power. If you use it directly, you start to kind of want more. It becomes like a drug, and you want to crave more of it, and you want to use more of it to basically become too powerful, right? You know, power corrupts absolute, power corrupts absolutely.
Mhm.
That theme is going on. But you learn from the elven girl who uses artifacts like a broken sword or a bow or her clothing to channel the mana through it. She can use it without being corrupted, but she's limited in what she can do.
Okay. Well, I know there's probably like a lot of detail that your comic strip goes into, so I don't want to really give too much away for people that
No.
want to check
But
out.
that's hopefully will be enough to wit the episode.
And you said that you wanted to do eight different parts to this story.
Well, it can be 18 issues.
Or 18.
And they'll
Sorry.
be the 18 will be divided into 3 arcs. Each arc consists of 6 issues. So, like when we get to issue 6, arc 1 is over. So the first arc will take place completely on Earth. The second arc will be taking place between Earth and the elves' world called Amzul. So half and half. And then the final arc will take completely in place on Amzul itself, where the final battle between good and evil will be played out.
Okay, so I guess we will keep that in mind. But I mean, I'm guessing that each section can kind of stand on its own as well, though, because you've got
absolutely, and hopefully have some fun humor in it. Pay homage to some of my favorite shows, TV shows, movies. For example, I'm really excited about issue 3, where I got a nice little homage to Monty Python in there. So I'm really happy about that one.
That must be the fun thing about doing a project like this, because you really don't have a lot of restrictions placed on you, with the exception of like copyright. But I mean, obviously you can make something like that your own style, where it's not a copyright issue anymore.
Yeah. It's in terms of copyright, the Manna Chronicles, it's all under my name. It's all under my comic books company, so it's all good on that front. So we can definitely do whatever we want. And that's the thing. It's just like no IP that's out there is its own individual thing. It's made from other things.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you watch the comedy show Rick and Morty. First thing I thought of, this is a spoof with Doc and Marty of Back to the Future. But instead of a DeLorean going back and forth between time, this thing's going all over the bloody universe, and with 2 trash cans as warp propellers.
Right. So you're putting your own spin on it, so it's not really a question of, well, they're just copying from something else.
Yeah, exactly. But I want people to, this is like a Star Wars-y kind of thing, or hey, that was a nice little homage to Monty Python there, and that's what it's about, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, in the issue 3, what I'm talking about there is the characters having a conversation about looking at a castle, and one guy quips, "Oh, it's only a model," and they're like looking at him like, "What? Come on, you saw the movie Monty Python, Holy Grail? Come on, work with me here."
Now, I think you had mentioned that your long-term plans for this comic strip series is to actually become more like a live animation, right?
Either a live action, a movie, because that's what comic books are. And finally, Marvel tapped into that back in 2008 when they made the first Iron Man movie. They realized, wait a minute, we literally have all these storyboards in comic book format. Let's bring them to the cinema and let's see what happens. And boom, the MCU is born. DC had the same thing. The problem is they have totally squandered it on so many levels, right? So I'm doing the same thing. I've been just pitching these ideas as comic book, as animated movies, or a live action TV series, or an animated TV series, or whatever, right? And one young lady that I pitched it to suggested, well, why don't you just make it into a comic book? Well, guess what? It's actually cheaper to make it into a comic book than it is to get an animated pilot going.
Yeah, so then you're not hiring voiceover actors just yet, and
not yet. And if I get the funding and stuff, I'm hoping to be partnering up with the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. Are you familiar with them?
No.
Well, look them up. It's called sovas.org, SOVAS, Society of Voice Arts and Sciences. They are co-founded by Joan Baker and Rudy Gaskins, and it really helps people get into the voiceover industry, support the voiceover industry, create a legacy for the voiceover industry with their award show titled the Voice Arts Awards. And they do that every year, and the next one's in December in Los Angeles. And I'm hoping to partner, if I get the funding, the proper funding and the right partners, I'm hoping to partner up with them to kind of put on an audition to make the pilot. So working with all, like giving everybody an opportunity that's within the Sovas community to come out and audition for the roles in this series, if and when I get the funding to do it.
And you list yourself as a Sovas juror. Is that when like people bring their auditions to you and you basically critique them, or is that
what happens is the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, the Voice Arts Awards, comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 9 years, this is my 9th year, they would send me categories. So, for example, animation categories, and then I would judge them. Demos, animation demo, character demos, promo demos, commercial demos, commercials, promos, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And my job is to judge them. So other people are judging them as well, and then they tabulate all the scores and present 5 nominees for each category.
I see. So,
just like the Oscars.
Okay. And the Voiceover Award goes to?
Exactly. The Voice Arts Award goes to. Last year, I was at the Voice Arts Awards in Los Angeles, and this one young lady from Japan, she won like three Voice Arts Awards in a row. Bang, bang, bang. She walked onto the stage, gave her little speech, came around, got her name called back, walked right back. It was greght.
You kept her busy that night.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of the descriptions I read of you was you're a Coca-cologist?
Coca-cologist. Yes, I love Coca-Cola. Love Coca-Cola products. And 9 years ago, I actually got hired by the company to help work there at the factory, make products. And right now, my position is called an ergo-block technician. I run this brand new machine that basically takes these little test tube things called preforms, heats them up, blows them up like balloons and molds, and then fills them up with pop. Yeah. Pretty fast, too, like 700 bottles a minute.
What does it do with the balloons that when it blows them up?
Okay, so it's a hard plastic, right? So then it goes into an oven. That hard plastic test tube goes into an oven. It's spinning around while it's going through the oven, and it's getting heated up to a particular temperature, when it goes in the blow molder, this rod comes down, stretches now the malleable plastic, stretches it out to the bottom of the mold, and then uses forced air to blow it up like a balloon and press it against the mold to create the bottle shape.
All right. Is there going to be any product placement in future episodes?
Well, if they pay me for it.
Wink, there you go.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think that's a new venue for Coca-Cola that they probably haven't even thought about yet.
No. Let's have this elven girl try Coke for the first time. What is this?
Wait, I've got to save the universe, but first.
I got to drink
hold up the bottle, right?
Coca-Cola. A friend of mine's metal band, Aggressive by Nature. They are I'm going to put one of the characters is going to wear one of their T-shirts.
Okay.
In the comic book, so it's going to be fun to have their logo in the comic book.
Yeah, and you can probably do a spoof on that too, I think.
Easy. Yeah, you can have them going to a concert. What is this?
So, if people want to get involved with promoting your comic series, what should they do?
Well, they just simply go to elpmerch.com and check it out, and then share it just like through social media, through all the links. I mean, that is the best thing that anybody can do. You don't have to buy anything; just share it to see and show your comic book geek friends. Hey, there's this independent comic book out there that you might actually enjoy. And from my opinion, the art's fantastic. Like, I'm just blown away by it. If you just had a quick glance there at the books, the art alone is just worth the price.
I think, having looked at it myself, and you sent me the copies of some of the previews. The style of animation is very classic. It's definitely something that it seems familiar, like right off the bat, but not like a hack version of something. I mean, like, you can see that there's something fresh going on, but the style of it is really interesting. It definitely draws your eyes to it.
Yeah, we're using the North American comic book style within the comic book, but if we were actually make it to an animated series, we actually, if in the first issue, you'll see there's an advertisement for the Manna Chronicles, the animated series coming soon, and you'll see a completely different style design of the characters, because that's what they would have to look like for animation. They have to be a little more simplistic, a little simplistic on the colors, because you can't really have wild camouflage patterns on an animated character. Costs a lot of money. So yeah.
Okay. So this is all basically for social sharing, so they can go to your website and then check out this comic and then post it on their social pages.
Yeah. Or if the best thing to do is to click. There's a nice little blue button that says "Join the Quest" here. You click on that, and there's all kinds of products that we put the art on, all the way from glasses, mugs, magic mugs. You know those ones that are black, and you pour the hot tea in it, and it's the image appears.
Right.
Yeah, we got stuff like that. We got shorts, pants, t-shirts, hoodies, Hawaiian shirts. That's my favorite. So, just like this.
Okay. And so we've been talking so much about the Manna Chronicles. Could you talk about your other project that you're working on as well?
Yeah. So my wife's other project is called Tales of Mithril. Again, her first issue is on the website. You can go and check that out. And it's a story about two young elven women on a completely different world. They're going to magical schools, and both of them have different destinies. But they befriend each other at the school after a not a very nice meeting, and it goes from there. And so she begins to one character feels like she's being forced to go down this path. Another character was having her father try to have her go down another path, but she made a decision to go to this other place. And then of course, as you explore the world and you find out about the world through the eyes of these two young ladies, you discover a big mystery about both of their destinies.
Okay, and what about Zug the Friendly Orc? You said that was another...
Zug the Friendly Orc, that's an anti-bullying kids show we've been developing. When I have time and the full resources, I definitely would like to turn that into a comic book series at the very least. That'll be for young kids, between ages say 8 and 12, teaching them about don't judge a person by how they look like, judge them by their character, right? So orcs considered villains in most fantasy. So this one is raised by gnomes. So we're tackling the issue of nature versus nurture. He's an orc. Can he be good? Right? So he's being raised by gnomes. So he knows how to be friendly. Yet there's going to be bias against him because of what he looks like. So one of the characters is a human character. She can't stand Zug just by his look because her family were wiped out by orcs. Okay. So she has a grudge against him, even though he's done nothing wrong. And every time he ends up saving their butts many times when they go out on their quests, she's got the blinders on, right?
Right.
And so that teaches kids about that kind of stuff.
I like that.
As a comedy too. So we'll try to put as much comedy in there as possible.
Hey, comedy with a message. There's nothing wrong with that,
That's
my
right.
friend.
Nothing wrong.
All right. So before I let you go, let everybody know one more time where they can look to find your comics.
Oh yeah. So elpmerch.com. Again, we're an independent publisher. And as such, you're not paying like $6 at a comic book shop. You're paying a little more and plus shipping. But if you spend over $50 at the site, you get free shipping around the world. It could be in the States, Canada, it could be Mexico, it could be Yugoslavia. It doesn't matter. We'll get it to you.
Okay. Mr. Ian Fults, the comic strip is called The Manna Chronicles. And I wish you so much luck with this, sir. It sounds like a lot of fun, really interesting stuff. Thanks so much for swinging by.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jim the Sherpa. This has been fun.
Be a rebel. Follow the show at Sherpa-lution on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thanks so much to Ian Fults for coming on down, and be sure to check out his animation, The Manna Chronicles, and check out some of the merch that they have as well. And also thank you to you for spending a little time and listening to me ramble on and say silly things or serious things or things that I don't know what I'm going to say. I like to surprise myself, I guess. And I believe next week we are scheduled to have a Sherpa's Podcast Picks episode, but you never know. Sometimes the guests that we have, they run away, but we find them. They can run, but they can't hide, rebels. So if you are enjoying the show, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what's on your podcast playlist. You can message me at Sherpa-lution on Facebook or Instagram or X or anywhere else. Sometimes I'm on TikTok as well. Soon the goofy videos will be returning, I hope. We will know that in the near future. And you can also hear our show on podcast apps everywhere or the Sherpa-lution YouTube page. It's called Sherpa-lution 5000, which is the formal name of it. If you need a formal name for YouTube, I don't know. So that will do it for me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, signing off here from Podcastia. Until next time, viva la Sherpa-lution.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpa-lu Studios production. Viva la Sherpa-lution!